Welcome back
Welcome.
to 4 weeks off.
Yeah, full month.
A full month, yeah. 4 weeks off. Welcome to June. This is one half of this podcast, Ayesha.
This is the second half of this podcast, Lexi.
And today we actually have a guest joining us who read this book and is going to discuss this book with us. My best friend, Kyla.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. We figured this month, I don't know, what would you consider our theme? Taboo?
I guess.
I think that's like the more accurate of just like taboo / controversial.
Well, I wanted it to be kinky, but Ayesha picked a book that wasn't really kinky, so
It's just pretty controversial in general. I think it'll be an interesting topic, but our most listened to episodes are the episodes you shit on books, so
true.
Is that what's going to happen today?
maybe not on this episode, but okay, so this week, for our first book back off our break, we did Praise by Sara Cate. Yeah, Sara Cate. And it's what age gap? Is that like the main
Age gap, ex-boyfriend's dad.
dom sub? Like would be the three
and
like
then like a
main
BDSM dom
undertone?
sub.
And like
I
a
guess.
boss secretary thing, too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's in a-
employer. Yeah.
Yeah.
My boss employer. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean like that's those are some pretty, I would say that's like top tropes.
Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah.
What other tropes are there? I also have, this isn't really a trope, but like they also have public sex or like
Is
Oh,
a
like
sex
voyeurism?
club considered?
yeah, I
Yeah,
was
or
gonna say, like,
exhibitionism.
exhibitionism
Yeah.
maybe, because it's not quite like public sex, but like
But people are watching.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say exhibitionism over voyeurism though,
Yeah.
because
Read
like
the second book,
Yeah.
then that's real exhibitionist.
and then I also have LGBTQ2+ rep because her sister,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
and like I thought that would be explained way sooner, but it's not.
No, it's definitely subtle.
Because yeah, it took me a little while to like
Well, they didn't
catch
want
into that.
that to be like
Plot.
yeah, the plot.
Mhm.
It was just like, oh yeah, and Sophie happens to be a trans girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did catch on to that like sooner, but then they didn't state it, and I was like,
Yeah.
is
I had
this
an
what it
inkling. I had
is?
an inkling, but yeah, I like that it wasn't like the center of it, but then it was like just
a part
a
of
part of
yeah.
part of who she was. Yeah.
Trigger warning. I don't know, like
Bad dad.
yeah, that's true. To be honest,
Yeah.
it's so funny thinking about like the like so many books. It's never bad mom. It's always bad dad. Like,
Why?
doesn't matter whether
I
it's the
also
hero.
made this observation that it's like when the girl has a bad dad, she's just like a more independent person, and when the guy has a bad dad, he's just like borderline a psychopath.
He's just like a shithead.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just like
Damn.
kind of an asshole.
And you see that both in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, like, I don't know, would Emerson make Sarah a bad dad? I feel like that's
He's
a
not
good
bad
topic
dad,
to hit
but-
later.
Yeah.
But
I
'cause,
mean,
like,
if you ask Ben, is that his son's name?
what the fuck is this?
Bo?
Bo.
Bo.
It is Bo.
Bo?
Bow?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. No, it's
If you ask
Bo.
Bo would say yeah, but then I mean,
But
me personally, like,
his
we could debate it.
like his issue with Emerson is the sex club, though.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have any issues when he thought his dad was running a nightclub until he realized it was actually like a kink club.
Yeah,
and then he thought his dad was
like,
a perv.
yeah, and then he
Sex makes money, bitch. Like, sorry. Like, let's be honest.
But then it's like the whole like foil of the novel is
He's kind of a perv.
well, he's not perfect. He just fucks his son's girlfriend. So
Ex-girlfriend.
yeah, so like that's kind of shitty.
I mean, yeah.
But like we can like go back and forth about that
Because
later.
the trigger warning that I wrote was, the bad dad, with like the asterisks of like not Emerson, but like her dad.
her dad
Her
is,
dad.
And like
is
her dad
really
not
shitty.
being accepting of her sister being trans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
And,
even
like,
in
being-
like one of the last scenes, like he like
I-
stormed in and
You wouldn't call that I was trying to think of what the actual term for that is.
Transphobic.
Yeah, that's what it is. I was like, what is the actual term for that? So that would be what I would consider it. Like, just very like, transphobic would be the one. But like, it sounds like it's not just transphobia that is his problem. He's just like an asshole who doesn't like anything that's not normal.
Yeah, definitely.
This had higher ratings than I thought.
It's a booktok book.
Not
is
unsurprising.
Everyone like
People love niche shit.
They
Like,
read
let's be
niche?
honest. I would
Is
consider
this
this
niche?
niche. This is very like. See, the thing is like, okay, Lexi and I have read a lot of books. This is not that taboo. We have read some pretty fucked up stuff.
So this is my problem with this book.
But this is not that taboo.
Like, everyone is like, this is the kinkiest book you're ever gonna read. This is so
This is
spicy.
not that fucking
And I
kinky.
was like, and that's why I like when I first read it, like how long ago? Because I was telling you about it,
Yeah.
and because she was thinking about getting it for you for Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
And then she was like, "Oh, what did you think?" And I was like, "It honestly like
Underperformed.
It
the hype.
underperformed for
The hype.
everyone talking about how kinky it is. Like it needed to be more kinky.
Like it definitely could have really pushed it. Like I mean, obviously it was
100%.
like obviously very sexy and like raunchy, but like I have definitely read raunchier stuff.
Well,
like
and this reminded me of when we did No Saints, where like the hype was so big, people were like, "Oh, it's such a dark romance, it's so fucked up," and you're like, "It's not even that fucked up." Like, it's just not like the hype was not.
Yeah,
same
I
as the actual
definitely
book.
think this is because
This is a
I've
very
read.
mainstream kinky romance.
Yeah, I've read the
It's
first
like,
4 books of this series, and I definitely think this is like the tamest. Of,
Is this the first
Oh,
one?
really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's gonna be total 6, so there's 5.
Like I would
out
read
right
more.
now.
Like after reading this one, I'm like I would like to see the other storylines as well, and hopefully it gets a bit raunchier because it's like it could have really leaned into it considering it was based around a sex club and the only really like extreme thing that you see is like the throne room
And
and
the auction. Like those were the two
right,
the two things that I would say were like the top ones. So like this had a 4.12 rating out of 5, which is high. And it had 73,000 ratings. Like that's a lot.
Whoa.
So and usually when you see that many ratings, you see the rating lower.
Yeah.
So I was kind of shocked this was a 4. I didn't expect this to be as consistently a 4. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like across like multiple different people rating it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really like, I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be that like popular, but I guess this is it. Yeah. Book Talk one. This is on the shelves of Indigo.
Yeah.
Which is like also kind of I would say previously, before Book Talk became a thing, or like Bookstagram, this kind of book would not be on the shelves of Indigo.
No.
You get a lot of fucking historicals, a lot of fade to blacks. You wouldn't see
cartoon covers.
Go ahead.
or like, have you read the book Sinner by Sierra Simone? Like with the priest?
Oh no,
I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot about it.
I've
Like
heard a
shit
lot
like
of-
that doesn't make the
Heard
shelves.
a lot about it. Yeah.
But like now it's on the shelves. Although this is still tame.
That's what I'm saying.
But-
Maybe it was tame enough to make the shelves, but then just push the limits of it. Because
Yeah.
like I could see how it could be like a mainstream, like I suppose like popular kink novel because
It reminds
we
me
can get
of,
into it more, but later. But
of 50 Shades of Grey.
there was
Definitely
a
better
bit of
than
that.
50 Shades
Better
Grey.
than 50
but
Shades.
I mean,
better than 50
in the
Shades,
sense
but like
in the sense of like mainstream, where it's like, oh, like I
Intro
read this,
to
like,
dom subplay.
BDSM novel,
Yeah.
and you're like, this isn't
This
not
is
BDSM.
not BDSM.
yeah.
I think because I gave Ayesha 2 options for like this series. It was Praise or Mercy, which is book 4.
And that's which is flopped. Same relationship but different.
So
like the
it's
woman is the dom,
Maggie's.
and the man's the sub.
Yeah, it's Maggie's and
Emerson's
Beau's
son.
book. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd be
And
intrigued
she's
by that.
she's the dom and he's the sub, and he's
Bo
like,
would be a sub.
Yeah, he would. He would. He would.
It's also because it's also a different type of
Dom
dom
sub?
and sub because he's a brat and she's like a brat.
would be a
quote unquote
brat.
tamer.
Yes. Okay. I'm
Whereas
into
Emerson
that.
is like, I'm not into the brat thing.
No.
I think I like Mercy a bit better than Praise at the
Okay.
end of it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, we'll have to come back and do Mercy.
Maybe. Because, like, okay, so the two characters are Charlie or Charlotte.
Yeah.
I don't know where the fuck her last name is.
That's fine.
She
And
have a last
Emerson.
name?
So he's 42.
Yeah.
And she's 23.
21. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I think she's 21.
Is she 21?
Like,
I thought
like
she
I
was-
remember it being like, oh, she's really young. Like, I remember being
Oh.
very
She was like
aware of
right
it.
out of school.
I thought that, but was
21 or
she graduating
22
with a
at the
degree?
oldest. She's 22.
Okay, I don't know why I had
And then
23
he's
in my head
definitely 40.
because this is dual POV, but
you get more Charlie.
you get
than-
more Charlie than Emerson,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
like I guess makes sense. I feel like that's pretty common in dual
Yeah.
POV. Like
yeah.
you often get the female perspective more than the male perspective in a lot of dual POVs.
But it's like mostly even, but it's like more
I
leaning
would,
towards
it's like
her.
40-60.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would say like there are some sections that are 50-50, but like it borders on more closer to 40-60
Yeah.
as a whole.
Yeah.
Because like yeah, it's just more so from Charlie's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I noticed about this book, like about halfway through, the first thing that stuck out to me is I was like, she has no female friends.
Yeah, I think this is like a
She-
problem
A
in
huge missing thing. I was like, why does
like,
she have no
I
female
think
friends?
That's a good
this is a
point.
problem in both this book and then also the next book we're gonna do. Is like
she have friends? I don't
doesn't
get
even, it doesn't even like need to be a female friend. It just needs to be a friend. Like
Yes, true. Yeah.
I do like. It just seems like lack of character when they have
No friends.
no friends.
It's weird. It
Like her whole life revolves around like her sister, huge, which is like
Yeah,
that's
makes
lovely
sense.
and that's
Yeah.
sweet and that's nice. But it's
she
like
doesn't once
you're
talk
21
about
years old, you don't have a friend, at least
she
one
doesn't
best
have
friend.
She doesn't talk
any other
about
friends.
anybody,
That's a good point.
which is like I thought was odd.
Like she kind of makes a friend with Eden.
yeah, but is that really
yeah,
It's more like
I mean, the thing is if there was a sequel to this, I could see them popping up in later books
Yeah.
as friends.
Yes.
but they're not friends in this book.
no, they're more just like they like circle. There's almost like this like tete-a-tete, or like they're circling around each other. It's almost like I could see them
Like a
eventually having
mentor.
yeah, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
mentor exactly. So I could see that being a thing. That would be a cool book later down the road. But not.
Yeah,
I wouldn't that's
you-
the closest to a friendship.
You definitely only see Charlie really have friends in the later books because she makes friends with
the other
what's his name, the best friend.
oh my
his
God,
best
is it
friend.
Damon or
Is that
something like
Grant?
that?
Is his name Grant?
I
I
think
don't know.
Emerson's last name was Grant.
The the exhibitionist guy.
Yeah, the
Okay.
voyeur.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So she makes friends with his
Friends,
like
but that's
the
also
one
the thing
girl, I
whatever
guess.
he ends up with. Okay,
Because they're like basically close in age, and then also
Boy.
she makes friends with obviously
her and Bo, I'm sure eventually fucking get their shit together.
yeah, questionable. But then she also makes friends with
The wife,
Hunter's wife.
yes, but Hunter's
Oh,
wife,
right.
they're a threesome. Like they're a poly. That
But
book's
that-
a poly.
yeah.
It's actually Hunter, his wife, and then the whatever the constructions guy name was. They actually end up like they're actually a poly relationship.
Ooh,
Like
that'd be
that's why
fun.
he's always hanging around the construction guy. It's because they're a poly,
Oh.
and like they haven't
Ex-
come out as a poly. Is my
yeah,
understanding.
double spoiler.
That's my understanding.
No, it's so. I mean, we're
That's what
really
I got
side.
from reading the
we're really side
blurb thing.
of the blurb, or from like what they show in the
The
book.
blurb. I read the blurb.
Oh, okay. Because it is like him, like Hunter coming through his understanding of like he is attracted to his friend, as well as like
His wife.
as well as his wife, and as well as he is likes being cuckolded. So that's also a thing in that book. I mean, that book is definitely kinkier than this book. Definitely not the kinkiest book I've ever read, but it is one of the other books that everyone does talk about in book talk.
Yeah, that's
We digress.
Yes, I do get that. But yeah, the one thing that stuck out to me with this book, 'cause I was like, she doesn't have any friends. It was weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It seems
it
so
even, like-
obvious
'cause
because she like would have she
Even
no one
at
to
the
talk
roller
to.
rink, like I assumed, like, because didn't she get a job through a friend?
Her mom's like
her mom's
best friend
Because
owns the rink.
even like just having a friend at the roller rink would have.
Even
would've
or like
made
a
sense.
coworker that
Yeah.
she could have been like
to divulge
kind of friendly
into.
with.
Yeah.
But no, she didn't have anybody. I thought that was
No.
so strange.
Yeah. And you see that in the book, like she goes through this, like, it's like an inner turmoil that she's like working through over and over and over again. It's like, but she has no one to like bounce it off of.
Yeah,
But
it's
she
like
like
her
keeps it
14-year-old
in.
sister, which like obviously she's not going to.
Yeah, yeah, and she like kind of alludes to it, but she's not gonna like fully divulge into
No.
it. Yeah,
So I thought that was strange.
yeah, that's a good.
That
thing
was
to
like
point
the
out.
one like big girl was like, why is
Well,
she
I
not having
mean, like
friends?
any friend would probably tell her that Bo is a piece of shit.
Yeah, Bo is such a piece of shit.
Yeah, he
He's-
is kind of a piece of shit. Yeah,
That was
probably-
one thing that stood out to me that I was thinking about is that like why is Bo such a piece of shit, but then Emerson is so lovely. Like like Emerson has his things too, but it's like Bo is like really shitty.
It's okay. That's basically delving into his book a little bit, but it's this like
Is his mom a psycho?
it's not his mom's a psycho. His mom was definitely feeding him bad opinions of his dad, as
So he's
well
like
as
an
like
angry
this
little boy.
idea of like this toxic masculinity idea that like his dad is like a dominant and like obviously like an alpha-esque male,
oh, and
and
he's
he's-
a sub.
and he felt like he didn't live up to what his dad was. So he like
I see.
overcompensated. He's like overcompensating for that by being like an asshole. But like
I see.
He
It
was-
also
wasn't
is a
like-
protective mechanism as
Yeah.
well, probably. Okay,
because
I
like
still don't like him.
maybe if you read his, I don't know, I haven't read his book. That's the first book.
he
of the series
definitely
I read.
has redemption in his book, but like not the way you think. Because I think you like him better after his book and you understand him better.
I mean, even at the end of this one, I'm like, I liked how it wrapped up in this one.
I thought it was weird. I thought how it wrapped up was weird. but
Really?
that's just
Okay.
me.
I mean,
Yeah,
we can.
we'll
yeah.
get there. But,
We'll get there.
I thought what was really funny was like when she shows up to get whatever her rent check, her deposit from
Yeah.
Emerson, and he immediately thinks she's one of the secretaries, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Fuck this bitch," and then she immediately like listens, and he's like, "Okay, I'm into this," and then he's like, "Oh my god, you're my son's girlfriend. I fucked up." Instantly. And it's like pretty funny because she's still kind of confused and he's like mortified.
But she does it.
But
like,
she does it.
like that. I
She's
love
like,
that.
"Yeah,
she,
okay,
she
daddy."
literally did something else. She was just like, I guess so. That was a little. It was funny. It was a little weird though because I was like,
Would you do that?
would you actually do that though? And so,
I don't
but I get it.
I mean, like, I do get the whole like you're 21 and you just have a 40-year-old guy telling you to get on your knees. You're like, I
and
just
also,
want my
I
money.
would,
I don't
like,
know.
Automatically, if he's like, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, I'm just here for my rent check. Like, I would like automatically be
know.
like, I'm here for this reason. I don't know why you think I'm here, but obviously we're not.
But he's supposed to be gorgeous, right? Like
Yeah.
tall, gorgeous, muscular, like huge, and like I don't know. Maybe I would.
I mean, like, I did that. That did make me pause where I was like, wait, what is she? Why is she doing it? Like,
well, she's also sub, so like.
I guess that's true.
She is
like
a-
natural.
Also,
instinct is
she
yes,
also
bitch.
she also has obviously a praise kink. So she,
Yeah.
when he was like good girl, she was like, oh my god, I love this.
I did think it was weird that she didn't, instead of going, there was never a moment where she was like, in that moment she wasn't like, that's weird, I like it, but it's weird. She was just like, I like this. It was never like, hey, this is kind of weird that my ex-boyfriend's dad just told me I was a good girl.
I also
like,
do
that's
like how she was just like when he
that's
was
weird.
like, oh, just please forget about it, and she was like, well, I could forget about it if you gave me.
Oh, she fucking
some
exploited him.
fucking
and I was,
money.
that's true. Actually, there was, because at first when she like got on her knees, I was like, oh god. And when she did that, I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, girl. You know
Yeah.
what? Do it. Like, fuck that guy.
And you see a lot of that from her character throughout the book, and like we can dive into it a bit more later. But it's just like, and this like push pull of like she is a sub, but like she has power as well. And like that's, I think, the one thing this book did right in terms of like understanding dom sub play is that the sub actually has like a lot of agency and a lot of power in the relationship.
Yeah.
And like if she doesn't feel comfortable and safe, then it doesn't happen. And so I think that's like you see that in her character a lot, where she's like obviously a sub and obviously is just like wants to please and like do what just
but
make
she
him
doesn't
happy.
lose agency.
No, if anything, she gains more power and agency, and like leans into her curiosity and her whole personhood.
I did like that about the book in general, because I found that she really, like, she grew quite a bit, and it was never like, it was realistic in my opinion for her to be like, I feel like I should be ashamed for wanting this, but I don't quite feel like I want it, but and her that push and pull of like wanting something but also feeling like society tells you shouldn't, and like that push and pull of her being like, this is what I want, but is it okay to want this? I thought was really realistic of her like coming
conflict.
into that.
Yeah.
I also
I
like
shouldn't be
that
ashamed for what I want.
she went out and like tried to learn things on her own and not just through Emerson.
Yeah.
Like
That's
she
true.
was like starting to read
Google it.
she was starting to read the blog, and then whenever she had a question, she was like, "Hey, what does this mean?" And then when she obviously when she met Eden, she like was talking to her about it and like talking to her about the blog and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. That's true. She did kind of do her own research.
Yeah.
And like kind of come into it like a little bit on her own, like not just through him. Because I mean, like, everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah. And I think she do that in the even like when she first goes to the club and like walks around by herself and like leaves and like she's pulled by her curiosity
rather than like, oh, come over here, let me show you this.
Yeah. And like she likes like pushing the limits too. Like she's not a brat. Like even like and
No.
he explicitly states that from the beginning, I don't want brats, but like there still should just be like a little bit of tension and a little bit of like, I'm gonna try to assert myself in my own way.
Which there is, but never in a way that felt weird or like forced.
No. Yeah.
Which I thought was really good. Because like you saw that Bo was gonna find out. Like you knew.
Oh, yeah.
You knew he was.
Yeah.
I did not like the way that he found out. I thought that was such a weird scene.
How
like
did it
what
happen again?
It
Like-
was she had the vibrator in
After
and
they'd
then
come from
Oh,
he
right.
got
That
the
was
and then
so
he grabs the
cringy.
remote by accident and like turns it on. I was like, what are the fucking odds of that?
Yeah. And they both lunge for it. And then he was like, wait, what just happened?
And she like screams because it turns on at full speed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just
yeah,
thought
that was unfortunate.
I thought that was just such a weird way to find out.
like, was it supposed to be funny or was it?
I don't know.
Like,
It made me super uncomfortable.
you're like, oh
yeah.
no.
I mean, I guess that was kind of the point.
To make you super uncomfortable.
to make everyone super uncomfortable with like
Like the fact that she's dating his dad.
yeah.
Because, like, I was just like, of all the ways to find out, like, I would have preferred him barging into the room while they were, like, actually having sex. Like, that is such a weird way.
Or like on her knees or something.
Where
or,
she's, like, got a vibrator inside of her. Like, I just thought it was such a, like, awkward, weird way to do that, to have that come out.
yeah. That was
Because,
not fun.
yeah, I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I just thought it was so weird.
Yeah, I think if he like snuck into the club or something and then he saw them or something like that, I think it would. I don't know.
What do you guys think of the whole like that was like the main conflict, obviously, was like them trying to figure out if what they're doing is quote like right, like should we be together because like I'm your ex's dad and
But like potentially my soulmate.
but like I was getting, I don't know about you, I was getting a lot of whiplash. Like it was so much back and forth of like, I love you but I can't be with you, I love you but I can't be with you, and like they're like totally like wanting to be together, wanting to be this thing, but it's like, but I can't because it's my son, and it's like, which I understand, I get, but it was like so much back and forth to the point where I was just like, all right, like you guys know you're gonna be together, like why are you pushing
I also
this?
just was like, in reality, I don't know, like if this was your kid's ex-girlfriend, like I feel like I'd be like, I actually have to let this go.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like we need to part ways. Like you wouldn't
like
keep her under the fucking secretary.
No, you would just like completely cut ties, or
Yes.
you'd like, or you just like admit it and just do the thing.
That was a weird thing of like, obviously he was trying to get through to his son through Charlie, which is why he offered the job. But him just like showing up to the roller rink, being like, "Hey, I want to give you a job."
Yeah,
I did think that was weird.
That was really weird.
But like, how did he find out where she worked? That is
I
weird.
think she told him.
Also, she
She told
didn't
him.
like. What qualifications does she have to be a secretary?
That's the thing. She's not really a secretary. She's
Yes.
but
He-
she still
yeah,
did a
she
good,
just-
a
because
good
he
job.
clearly-
Yeah, because he
secretary.
clearly sought her out for reasons other than
Because
She
he
was a
was
qualified
she was like
secretary.
his perfect sub. Like that was like a thing right away. Like obviously they had an instant connection, so like
Yeah.
that was what was pulling the whole thing together as well.
Yeah, her mom was like weirdly cool about the whole thing. Like
Yeah,
when
she was pretty chill.
and I was
a
like,
little more chill.
I
I don't
don't
think
know.
she pushed back at all.
no,
Which
when like her daughter's boyfriend is the same.
But they also,
age.
look, this is the thing of like, Bo was a fucking asshole and nobody liked him. Literally nobody,
No.
like her mom and her sister fucking hated his guts.
But
So
then-
I feel like it was just kind of like an extreme of like, you went from this absolute piece of shit to a guy that actually treats you right. You know what? I don't really care about the circumstances as long as you're being treated right. That's fine.
a little bit. Yeah. I think being chill about the age gap, I think, is fine. I think being chill about like, oh, this is your ex's dad is probably like too chill. I would be like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because then you're still inadvertently connected to Bo. Like
Yeah.
Bo
Also,
will always be in your
You'd
life.
be his stepmom.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
weird. Also,
Yes.
like, they even have a scene where they talk about kids, and he's like, "Oh, I've had a vasectomy," and she's like, "Okay, well, I guess that's
Yeah,
a thing.
that
Like, I
was
want
also,
kids,"
like,
and
a
then it's never
little-
brought up again. Where she like
Mhm.
actively thinks like, "Well, I think I want kids."
She's
one
Yeah,
day.
she's 21
yeah,
and, like-
she's 21.
and, like, yeah, some people
was,
know,
and he's-
but-
yeah, that was a little. Like,
My question
thing
is, why was that
like-
in there if it was never going to be a conflict? Because she even thinks, "Oh, like." I think I want to have kids one day, and he can't even have kids. So, like, that was another like
I mean,
kick
you-
in her
you
head of like,
technically
oh, it
can
can't
get-
reason.
a vasectomy reverse.
Yeah.
Yes, but like,
But what you're
he's-
saying, it was like less of a conflict than you think it should have been.
yeah, because
Yeah.
in her head she was like,
Yeah.
oh,
it
like
was-
perfect. Another reason I shouldn't be with him. Like,
The-
I
But it
want
was never
kids,
brought back.
not right now, and it was never brought back to be
Yeah.
like, they're like, oh, we'll just be together, and like this will be perfect. And I was like,
yeah,
but you know, he doesn't want children on it, like, and
Yeah.
you do, but
the
like,
conflict was very much more on his part than on her part.
but like,
and
was
it
she
was
just gonna be like, I
never,
guess I just
like-
want to have kids, like. That
Yeah,
seemed
they
like
never
such
really
a
talked about like how this was gonna work like long term. You know, like
No.
Well, I just wish they did because I was like, I have so many
Because
questions.
if it was like if she was like, oh no, I know I don't want kids, at least like resolve it that way. Or if it
Yes.
was like, is there a possibility? Like, yeah, there was just no side conversation after the main.
yeah, it was
that
like
one.
her in
I
her
forgot
head
about
being
that.
like, okay,
well, I
and
mean,
that's a
like
con,
he also said he
perfect.
he never wanted to get married again, and then they do eventually get married.
in the later books.
Yeah, in Bo's book, they actually get married.
That was the one thing that I was like, wait, what? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that would be like a fundamental thing to be like, well,
And that goes back to like her not having like a fully developed character, which is like, I find it's so funny because like I think her character does a lot of good things in terms of like, yeah, like coming into herself and like exploring the side of her, but then it
Yeah.
leaves out other parts like
It's
her friends,
like-
like what she wants to do.
All her character growth revolves around like her sexual like awakening
Mhm.
instead
Which-
of like her coming and understanding herself as an adult.
yes. I think that was what was missing because
Yeah.
you could like she didn't quite feel like someone you wanted to like. Not that you didn't want to root for her, but I didn't feel invested in her.
Yeah.
Like I didn't quite be like, oh gosh, like I really hope this works out for them.
No, I mean, I like I said, I like can resonate with the sexual awakening thing. I think that's what this character in this book does right. But yeah, I think there could have been more as far as like a fully developed character, because like Emerson's a fully developed person.
Yes,
because
and, like,
also
it's
he's an
super
adult,
clear.
like he's 42,
It's also super
and like
clear that he is a developed person. Like
yeah,
that,
and he has
that's one
friends,
of the,
and he's like
Yeah.
and he's like coming to himself, and like like you know who he is at his core.
and I just don't feel like you do that with Charlie. Like you just don't quite know her, and she doesn't know herself.
Yeah.
So like,
You're
I just
right,
thought that
only
was
a
like
sexual awakening,
but
which
then
is,
again,
which is hot and fun.
the
but-
obviously the project of this book was the sexual awakening
Yeah.
thing. Like that was the
So it's
project this
accomplished.
book took on.
Yeah.
With the side plot of like the whole transphobic, like that being another project the book took on.
Yeah.
I just feel like the project could have been done better because she still feels very much like a child. And I mean, like, to be fair, she's
She is.
what,
She's
21, 22?
yeah.
But like it makes it feel more icky to think about her not being a fully formed adult and making choices with a fully
Because like, what is she gonna do for a job at the end of this? Like, or is she just still gonna work for the?
No, she's still his secretary at the end of this, and like they still like throughout the entire series.
She's still admin
Yeah.
of the club.
I guess does she
She doesn't
ever
move up?
in with him?
she moves in, yeah.
But does she move up in the company as well?
I mean, like obviously, I think her role probably she has more responsibility because in Maggie's book, So they are opening a new location. It's kind of like a theme throughout the series of them trying to expand the club to more spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Maggie's book, they open a new location in Phoenix, and Maggie.
It's a really weird place to put one, but
they basically it's also there was
of all the cities, like why
so
Phoenix?
in like the third book, they do like basically it's like a road trip like book, so they do tours of different sex clubs, and one of them in Phoenix was gonna close down,
and they were like, "We'll just buy it."
yeah, so they just bought the location because it was already not
Alright,
only
and
did
they
they
just-
already have a established audience, they already had
set up,
Okay,
and they
got
just like
they
modified
would
as
just renovate
needed,
it
I
to
see.
what they want.
That doesn't make
So
sense.
Maggie leaves
to do that.
to do that
To
because
run
they're
the
like
thing.
because Emerson is technically like the head of this
Group.
location. So when they open the new location, they send Maggie to the new location to run it, and then I guess like I would have to read the next book after, but I assume that Charlie would then move up her responsibilities and be
That's
more
something.
responsible for things.
I don't know. Yeah, I just felt like it just still she still felt like a child to me, and that was because I'm not an age gap person. Like I'll be honest, the age gap is not my trope of choice. It is not. It's just not.
Yeah.
And like
Tis mine.
I
Tis
have
one of mine.
I have zero issues with it being a trope though. Like I get it, and I do. There are books that I enjoy their age gap, like the Mountain Man book. That first one is a huge age gap. It's like
It's exact
same
age.
and I love that book. I've read it 4 times. It's a book I go back to all the time. It's good, but it's not typically my trope of choice. And the issue is when it like when the girl still feels very like like a child, and it just makes
I
me feel
think
weird.
the
I don't know.
Yeah, that
I-
makes sense. That makes sense.
I think if she was a little bit older,
Even
like
if she had
25,
fucking
That's what I
friends.
was
Yeah.
thinking. I was like, if she was like 25 or 26, I would be like, okay, so you're like a bit more like of an established
Which
adult,
is funny
like,
because so like the next book, I keep referencing the entire series, but
Okay.
the next book, she's 23. He's a little bit younger. I think he's like 35.
Who?
Grant, the best friend, the one that kept sending the secretaries to him.
okay. I don't think his name's Grant, but
Is his name Grant?
no, it's not.
I
Emerson's
don't
last
know.
name is Grant.
Okay, what's
Okay.
his best friend's
I don't
name?
know. This is a
then?
D or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I just could not get over the fact that like
You're because
It is kind of like, though it's a kind of theme that throughout all the books, none of the female characters have female friends besides like
them becoming
seeing-
a group of friends where the girls are all
becoming
together.
like a big crew.
I
But
don't know.
like even thinking about the second book, she doesn't have any female friends that I can remember. The third book, Isabel, who's established as like a full grown human being, she's like 27. She
Right.
also like her only friend is like Charlie, and then
like the group that
yeah,
like,
the
that
group,
of
and then
people.
but she's grown close to obviously what's the construction guy's name? We should
I
really
thought
should
that
have
was
wrote-
Hunter.
No, Hunter is
There's
I
a lot
thought
of
that
characters in
was
this
Hunter,
book.
I don't know.
Someone is
Who
there?
cares? I don't, we're not
someone
talking
write a
about them,
wiki
but
for this?
see, but like, and that's the problem. Like, that's a huge problem in romance in general, because oftentimes, like, the heroines in the book don't have like female friends, or the sole other female in the book is the fucking villain, and that drives me fucking insane.
Yeah.
That like it's the villain, and it's so hard. Like, I can think of a handful of authors that do it really well, but like it's not super common. Even if it's just like like a work friend, I would
Yeah.
be less weird about like, oh, she has a work friend,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like someone else she can.
I just find
talk
it's just so
to.
it just finds it. I find it so hard to believe that you have a female character that just like doesn't have any friends. Any friends.
Any like not even like
One
guy,
childhood friend or like
women like any. It doesn't even matter what their gender is. Just a friend in general.
Because does she have a thing like in terms of like this is my dream, or like is that part of her thing where she's just like I don't know what I want to do at
I think
all,
it's-
Yeah,
Like-
she doesn't know what she wants to do.
which
I
is
think
like
she,
fair, but it's like
You're
there's
21,
no
so-
No, I
direction.
think
There's
didn't she like she had to drop out of school, didn't she?
no, she finished her degree.
I thought she
was a
dropped
degree
out.
in like communications or something.
Yeah,
Or,
it's like something random.
But it's so generic. It's just like it's so generic in terms of like she doesn't have any like goals and like she doesn't have like any friends, and so she like just like is absorbed by Emerson's world. And that can be a thing. And like I haven't like what I assume an age gap tropes that happens, and that
Yeah.
could be a downfall, because like I mean like the other book we'll discuss in another episode has age gap, but it's like that female character has
A very-
a very core sense of identity.
Yes, and I just
know?
feel like Charlie never. It wasn't like, oh, I have a sexual awakening, but like I am who I am. Like she doesn't quite know that, and I just thought that was just this like a flaw in this book. That
Yeah.
like I never quite knew Charlie, but I knew Emerson, and like you also not in his perspective for 40% of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you're more with Charlie, yet you still don't know her as well as you know Emerson. I just that was a flaw for
Interesting.
me in this book.
Yeah.
Because, like, and Emerson was also, like, I mean, I guess another trope we could say is, like, I guess you could call him an alpha, but, like, he's not, like, he's
well,
kind of like a
isn't
weird
that-
cinnamon
No,
roll
he's
alpha.
a dom, like, but he is a
Isn't
dom.
But, like, not in
Isn't
the
that
way
what Dom?
Or is he a soft dom?
comes from. Yeah, I guess alpha. But, like,
Yeah.
he was never, like, truly, like, domineering. Like, completely, like, I'm taking over your life. Like, it
No.
was, like...
There was some possessive things that I didn't love, but like what was it?
Like,
There was
when
a
he interrupted the, her and what's-her-face? When they were like, oh, let's make him jealous. And he comes in and he's like...
Yeah.
like when because he goes off with his like previous secretary,
yeah,
which he fucked, like, but not like in the book obviously, but he previously had fucked, and then she goes off and she's like talking to
What's his
not
face?
only his his coworkers, like he's
Yeah.
working with them actively, and they're having like, I felt like it was like one of the main like portions that you see her personality outside of Emerson is when she was having that like weird vibrator scene with Hunter and
Whatever
the
his
other
name
guy.
was.
Yeah.
The construction
I
guy.
really need to look.
But yeah,
I also didn't like her being
it was
like
very
and
double standard scene.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I didn't like about the book as well. Just like their possessiveness and jealousy with one another, but maybe that's like a core thing in dom sub relationships is like this ownership of one another, and
That's
like
true.
and so like that I chalked it up to being like, okay, maybe this is just like part of the trope, the dom sub trope. But there were some things about like his possessiveness and like her jealousy where I was like, I don't love that.
I also what I didn't. This is probably like we can probably go into our least favorite parts, but my least favorite part, besides the whole like weird vibrator scene with like Bo finding out, was that her dad came back. Like I just felt like there was such
Yeah.
an unnecessary way.
Yeah.
Like, Emerson didn't really grovel
He did
at
not
all for like throwing
he,
her
like, all he
aside.
did was try to like phone her, and then when she didn't answer, he would just
But then him and Bo show up, and like they had this weird
I
scene
don't like
with
how
her
Bo
dad.
showed up with him.
And like I just thought that was such a like I didn't feel like the dad needed to come full circle for this to be like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just didn't
He didn't
feel
even
like
come full circle. Like he didn't even like nothing was resolved. Like he just
No,
came
he
in,
just
stormed in.
had made a scene. Emerson said I love you, and she's like, oh God, we're together. I love him too. And then the dad leaves, and then nothing happens. I just felt like that was such an unnecessary random plot point to toss in. Like
Yeah.
didn't need to happen.
No, we didn't need to see the dad.
it was because
Also,
like,
since like the mom was already cool with it, Bo was already kind of like weirdly.
But the
like,
dad does
coming
reveal, because like the
around.
reason the dad comes is because like his
Weird
coworker
friend has been
was
going to
at
the
the club, and then he like storms in and calls her out, and like that kind of gets revealed. But it didn't need to happen that way.
No,
You know?
Also, his first thought is my daughter's at a sex club, not my weird coworker is at a sex club
Yes!
looking at my daughter.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like, what?
yes, and that's like so. Yeah,
That's such a
whole
backwards thing.
Yeah.
I just thought that was such an unnecessary like way to resolve, like to bring the two main characters back together. Like I just felt like them coming back together could have been like a conversation and not this weird like her dad coming back and getting like aggressive. Like I just thought that was like
Yeah,
not.
I thought it was. I mean, I guess it could be inserted to the point of like Emerson is saving the day, and Emerson's like coming and saving her, and you
I
know,
guess
because like
so.
because he is protective, and he like that's like a big
just-
part of his
yeah, I
character,
just
'cause
wish
he
it was
wants
a
to keep her
conversation.
safe, and like I guess like it's sort of, but I didn't love it either. I thought it
Yeah, that was my least
unnecessary.
favorite part because
And it was so jarring because he came in so the dad came
Aggressive.
in so hot,
so
like
aggressive.
like it was intense, and I was like, oh, that's
And it was like kind of like, is this going to escalate? Like I don't know. Like, is
Yeah.
he going to like
I thought,
try
yeah, I
to, like,
definitely
hurt
after that
one of
scene,
them?
you think he was gonna come back and like
because I knew she mentioned being like, that guy looks familiar at the club. I knew that was gonna kind of come back, but I didn't think that was how it was gonna like come back with her dad being like, oh,
Yeah,
so-and-so
I kind of
told me.
wish because like obviously she noted that guy looks familiar. I kind of wish instead of like her dad coming in, it was like this guy confronts her to be like,
I'm telling your dad.
I'm gonna tell your
Yeah.
dad.
Telling daddy
And
on
then
you.
she would have to then go to Emerson to be like, yo, this member is threatening to
me.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then her have to like own it to this guy and be like, fucking tell him, but like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, I thought it would be like a growth moment for her to be like a true ownership of like, well, this is who I am, so like, do
Yeah.
what the fuck you
Have
It was
want.
just like
but, don't
unnecessary.
feel like you can
I think it
come
was
here
like
and
an
threaten me.
unnecessary trauma, really, and like and just like and to put her
Yeah.
sister through that again as well, and like
yes,
but also
that's a good way to put
I
it.
think like again, yeah, and I still agree, but it's like I think also to the point, the fact that the sister called Emerson, because that's what happened. She called him
yeah.
to save him, and so like maybe that was another like deep trust thing. But then it was also like if we're playing into the age trope again, it's like is Emerson just kind of like replacing her dad?
Like, is
in
it
a
is it
sense?
like a
it is
is
like
it-
a daddy thing? It's
it
like a
is-
daddy issue.
Well, it's 100%. I mean, like, isn't most age gap
yeah.
things kind of like a daddy or mommy thing? Like,
mostly.
kind
It
of.
plays
Like,
into
there's
it.
always
Yeah.
an
There's
aspect
always
of
an
that.
aspect of that. Most,
I don't
not
know.
all.
That was
but
just
like,
like
not all. But
I just
a
thought that was
lot.
such a like unnecessary. Like that was my least favorite part for sure in this book.
Yeah. Well, Lexi, what was your least favorite part?
My least favorite part was the fact that like so all the sex scenes seem to be some form of like lesson to her in
In dom sub
dub
culture.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wish like the first couple got it.
Can they not have normal sex?
No, just like the first couple, it was like got it. She's like obviously she's learning, but like I really wish we just got like a full scene where he didn't have to teach her anything.
I thought there was at least one near the end where they had sex in the bed, or like I remember there being like a couple of like, oh, they're just having sex, and like of
No.
course there's always going to be a like a good girl, and there's always going to be like a yes sir aspect of it. But were they all a teaching moment?
I think there was one where they started in the office or something, or like they came home from that
The gala.
and like
No,
that
'cause
might
I
have
don't
been,
think they were together.
or was it the auction? When she comes home
the
from the auction.
No, the auction. So like that, they go to a room after the auction,
Oh yeah,
and
they
then he
have
does
sex.
like the wax.
Oh,
and he makes her
yeah.
cry, which is like
That's a
That's
teachable
right.
moment.
That's
though.
right.
Extreme.
And then the aftercare happens at home, and it's not actual sex scene. It's just him like
After
taking
giving
care
her
of
a
her,
bath
which is
and a
also
shower.
a lesson of like your dom should be taking care of you.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. I actually,
again,
that's the only
Like,
time I can think
you're
of them.
selling this to me as like a BDSM like
Which it is. I mean,
dom
yes.
sub,
Book.
but I just like you're trying to teach me about it, but it's like I've already entered this book with like
knowledge of.
like at least if you're gonna pick it up, you have some form of knowledge of.
I mean,
what
not
happens.
necessarily.
or but maybe this book is for people learning about it, because I think that's what I was gonna say. Like I keep coming back to is like what this book does well is like I had a baseline knowledge of like BDSM
Yeah.
stuff, but I think it really helped me deepen my understanding of what like dom sub play is. And I'm sure like whoever's listening, if it's not, please let us know. But like for me,
For
like
sure.
I feel like I learned a lot more, and
Yeah.
the aftercare was so important, and like for him to be so like abrasive and like such a dominant personality, but then to be like outside of that being so gentle and so caring and protective and like wanting it for her to be fully pleasurable. And I'll talk about my favorite scene after, because like that's one of my favorite scenes is her self pleasuring in the sex club, because like he wants that. He's like, I want you to be pleasured. Yeah, we
See,
can talk more in detail.
I see both sides of that in the sense that like the book's project is this like sexual awakening. It's this like dom subculture. Like that's the project of this book. But then in this book, he also makes it clear that Emerson's like, I want you to be my secretary, but I also want you to just be Charlie. And there are moments where like we'll switch back and forth because you're still a person, and like we might always have a bit of a dom sub relationship, but like you're still Charlie and not just always my secretary. But then all the sex scenes happen as a secretary and never as her and Charlie. Like Charlie and Emerson having sex.
Yeah. Unless
So,
like,
like,
maybe at the very end. Like maybe at the very, very end. Maybe that happens.
But I do get both. Like the project of the book though isn't Charlie and Emerson. The project of the book is secretary and sub.
Yeah.
Like sub and dom.
Charlotte and Emerson.
Yes. So like I do get it. But like yes, I would have enjoyed one sex scene where it's just them having like an intimate moment rather than the dom sub thing. Although like,
but that's the core of their relationship.
but it is the core.
And
So
especially a lot of dom sub relationships, like yes, it comes in and out of it, but it's like mostly you are playing in those roles
So,
if
like,
you are true like.
and I mean, and maybe that's where our ignorance is. Like maybe we like none of us are in dom sub relationships, so like maybe this is completely accurate, and we're just like we just don't know that.
Yeah.
So that like that could totally be us just not understanding the culture because we've never experienced it ourselves. So like that could also be it. But I do get what you're saying. Like I also saw that in this book.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your least favorite part?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. Like there was like certain aspects of possessiveness or jealousy that I didn't love and that I thought was like unnecessary. Let me think. Yeah, I think that's like the most of it. Yeah.
I get that.
I think that's it.
My favorite part was the scene when she's sitting next to his desk while he's having that meeting and she's like, is something gonna happen? Am I just gonna fucking sit here? Like I thought I was gonna suck his dick. And she's sitting there being like, I'm ready, and he's like, just hold on.
Yeah.
And eventually like they basically have sex while the meeting's going on. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is like where I thought this was going, and I'm glad it didn't like pull 180 and go the other way. Like this is what I wanted. That was a good scene.
Yeah.
Delivered.
Yes.
My favorite part probably is like her conversations outside of with Emerson. If that makes sense. So like when she has a conversation with Eden and she like start kind of like fangirls over her a little bit, being like, I read your blog.
That's
And
yeah,
like
that's true.
I
That was
really
cute.
liked it. And then also when she was just interacting with like even his coworkers, like it's just you just saw a lot more of her than you did with any of her internal stuff. But yeah.
My favorite part was the scene where I think it was like the night of the gala and she like sneaks off like past the rope and then she goes to like the throne room and she starts like watching
In the voyeur hall.
Yeah, and so there was like a woman sitting on the throne and then like she was being I think there was 3 people there and like she was being eaten out and then like someone was like yeah, there was a threesome going on in the throne room and like Charlie is just like so enamored and like watching it, and then I think Emerson comes in after,
Yeah.
and then he's like, and then so it could have been like they could have like had sex right there, but I liked it how he was like, no, touch yourself, and like so she and that was like the hottest scene
Like
for me.
own the moment of you
Yeah.
enjoying this.
And like so but they're still together, but he's like, I don't want like I'll just be here while you self pleasure watching this because he got turned on by watching her get turned on,
right.
you know, and so I was like, that was really
Yeah, that was
really
a good
hot for
scene.
me.
I agree. That was a good scene.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Okay. Ratings. I mean, like Lexi, what's your rating? I feel like I know
I think
what
it's
it
a
is.
solid 4.
Do you? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is this overall rating? And then we're gonna do
overall rating?
overall
yeah.
rating. I gave it a 3.
I initially gave it a 4, but I think I also would give it a 3. Like thinking back on it, obviously, like we read the books for this podcast to analyze them and talk about it, and sometimes I feel like that does make me change my rating. But yeah, I would say 3. Like I would give this a 3. I think.
Yeah, like I think
Or like a 3.5. Like if I give this a
Maybe
half star,
3.5.
I give it 3.5.
yeah.
I don't know. Like 3 feels like not enough, but I wouldn't quite give this a 4.
No, I wouldn't give it a 4. Yeah, I'd say like 3 or 3.5. And the reason is like I think it did a lot of things right, a lot of things about sexual awakening. I think it like informed a lot of people about like the intros of dom subplay, and like I think it did age gap well. And then yeah, the things that I think it did poorly on was just I guess like Charlie's character development overall, aside from the sexual awakening, and yeah, just like little fumbles here and there. I guess with their dad coming in and like
the friend thing. Like I don't know why that really like
yeah, you really
just
hung up on that.
it just really I've never noticed it before, but I was like, this is so weird. She has no one to talk to. Like who the fuck is she talking to about this shit that's happening in her brain and with this guy?
Yeah. Also, the one thing that I disliked, and I said it again, like this is why I'll keep my rating, is like this whole it's like it was too back and forth, too much whiplash of like, are we gonna be together? Are we not gonna be together? And they both said I love you, but like not to each other, like in their own dialogues. They're like, I love him, I love her, and they both know it, but they're not admitting, and that just annoyed me.
Yeah.
That just annoyed me because I was like, they could have gotten to it way sooner,
And they could have dealt with the problem together instead of trying to deal with it separately and then it blowing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Steaminess, I mean, like, I guess this is a 5. Like, I
Is
don't
it out of
know.
out of
like
5?
a 3.5, 4.
You'd give this a 3. Okay,
I do 4.
well,
I do 4. It's not.
I
quite
would
5.
agree with.
It's not. I would say a 5 is just pure erotica. Like,
I guess that's true.
Pure
This did have a lot
raunch.
of plot in it.
This was a lot of
Like,
yeah, because
a
they didn't have their
5
first sex scene till halfway through, right?
yeah.
That
Yeah.
annoyed me. I was like, now I get
That-
is
well,
this is that considered a slow
That's
burn?
very common.
I don't.
It is really common.
Yeah, I want it right out. I want it in the first 25%. I want it like right away.
Would you recommend this?
I mean, I've recommended it. Obviously, I recommended
To
it to
me.
you.
To me.
I
would.
I would. Okay, I would
would.
recommend this if someone was just
As an
asking
intro
for,
level.
Yes, if someone just was like, "Yeah, I like age gap," I'd be like, "This is a good book."
Yeah.
Because like it's not extreme BDSM.
No.
It's like pretty entry level dom sub BDSM stuff. Like
Yeah.
nothing is like that taboo.
Yeah,
I
glad
would recommend
I'm
this.
happy I read it.
Yeah, I would recommend.
You guys
this.
really curated this for me. They were like, age gap, Kyla? Yep.
Yeah.
BDSM? Yep. Sex
picked-
club? Yep. And I'm just like, yeah, right. Okay.
We
yep.
picked this. Would you reread this?
I mean, I did.
I wouldn't. I don't think I'd reread this. I don't even think I'd go back and reread scenes of this. I just can't picture myself picking this back up again.
I'd maybe skim through some scenes just to be like, just to try to jog my memory of it. But I don't think I'd read it back to front. I'd definitely skim it again.
You mean Lexi's like, I
I
read.
read.
So
That says a lot.
okay. So then on that note, any final words from anyone?
No, I thank you for showing it to me. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it overall. I'm glad we had this discussion.
Any last words, Lexi?
No, I think just read the rest of them. I had a good time with the rest of them.
Sure. Read the rest of them.
We will. We talked about them a lot.
Yeah, we talked about them a lot. This, even though 2 of the 3 of us are right. All right. On that note, we will be back in your ears next week with another episode with the 3 of us. I think is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
As per usual, rate, review, subscribe. We have a YouTube, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. That's where we are. So if you want to get a hold of us, that is where I would. And we have a Patreon. So
We have nothing on the Patreon.
So
I just want to note that.
follow us on our Patreon.
We might create content for the Patreon.
if we had people if we had patrons. Either way, we'll be back next week.
Bye.